Good afternoon and welcome. It is Tuesday. It is 5 o'clock. That means it is happy hour, and that means my dear friend and I are belly to the bar to have a drink, share the company, and talk Dungeons and Dragons. My name is Rob, aka Lantern Noir, and I am joined, as I often am at the bar, by
Graybeard Tavern.
How has your week been, my friend?
And
Don't start on the news yet.
No. Okay, I'll dodge.
Sit on the news. Sit on the news.
All right. Okay. The week has been. We had a really good grognard session in outer space with with people touching astral alien god beings and transmogrification and people doubting their ancient Jedi-like religions, and so you're just that kind of insanity. And other than that, pretty good. Played with Emma, my oldest, on Sunday, and I have found a site that has like one-page dungeons or no prep dungeons.
Ooh.
And it's really
yeah,
it's one of those where on Sundays I take a nap because I'm old, and I get up for the nap like 15 minutes before we're supposed to start. I pick one of those, I read it because it's usually like one page, and then we play, and then I tweak it if it's got anything that, as a parent, I don't think is going to appeal to said elven druid. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That works. I had a first time ever event happen in Sunday night's Curse of Strahd game.
Mm-hmm.
A very brief recap: they managed to get themselves ejected from the Ravenloft by using the teleportation brazier that's located somewhere in the castle. And so they said, well, we got to get back. And so the solution was for the wizard to polymorph the paladin into a young bronze dragon that they then rode back to the castle. And while debating, well, hey, we can blow the castle up. Let's do all the damage we can from up here. Multiple vampire spawn flew up in bat form, which I realize the stat block doesn't give them polymorph. You can send all of your complaints to @Graybeard Tavern on Twitter, and so they flew up to meet the dragon, and it became one of those just keeping the vampires off without having anyone get knocked off, while at the same time not letting the wizard take any damage, because then she'd have to make the concentration check to not let the paladin turn back into a paladin at 500 feet.
Right. And then, pick up all the dice on the table, roll them, and that's how much damage you take from the fall.
Which turns out a 450-foot fall, which is from the highest peak of Ravenloft to the courtyard, takes less than 6 seconds. So, yes, you would have exactly one combat round to do something before you came to an untimely and rapid deceleration.
Feather fall.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that gets the wizard out of the situation. Actually, the wizard has Misty Step, so I don't know why she was ever panicked.
Right.
I also Misty Step over to that point over there that's 30 feet away as I go down past it. The issue is everybody else. So yeah, that was a first. I had never planned I had never run a combat encounter on Dragonback before.
Yeah.
So that was a hoot and a half.
Even back in the Dragonlance days?
Even back in the I never, truth, and this is a good segue into our news segment. I never ran Dragonlance as an adventure. That's right. I read it, and I'd read some of the modules, but I got too caught up in but they won't do what they're supposed to. They won't follow the story that I never went really deep with it, and I'm excited because you were saying when we were getting ready, like, I've got news. I'm like, I saw it too. I'll let you bring it to the table though.
All right, I'll grab one prop. Sky Raiders of Abraxa, or wait, Abrax. How do you pronounce it? ABA. Abrax, Abrax. Anyway, new Dragonlance stuff, man, with like sky pirates and dragons and airships and woo. So
we are going to pause the podcast ever so briefly to say welcome to our raiders on Twitch. And for those that are listening on the podcast, these are people that have decided to kindly join the live production, the Raiders. And so thank you and welcome aboard. For those that don't know me, we just got through our introductions. My name is Rob, aka Larrington Noir, and with me is the amazing Graybeard Tavern. And on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock, we have happy hour. And we talk about the week in gaming, we talk about some news, and we talk about the topic of the week, which, as you can see from the stream label, is Mo Money, Mo Monsters. Mm-hmm. We have opinions. We'll get to those in just a second. We're kind of going through the recap. I was just talking about our Sunday night game, where we had Nebula's character, Samara, had polymorphed Azteki into a dragon so they could fly back to the castle, which was, again, the first time I've ever run combat on Dragonback, which was a hoot and 3/4. And then we're getting to the news, and you were just calling out as the raid came in, like you summoned them.
Yeah, exactly. I know when you said welcome Raiders, I was like,
what?
I just had the axe in my hand.
So the news is the Sky Raiders of Abraxia.
Yep.
So what do we know?
So far we know that it is the Hickmans.
Yay, Hickmans.
We don't know if Weiss is involved in it at all, but we know that they are. It's a third party 5e setting, Dragonlance setting. It's obviously after the War of the Lance and all that. Like I said, in the artwork, they've showed sky ships and dragons, and it's definitely 5e. So
now, is it confirmed that it is part of the Dragonlance universe?
From what they were talking about, yes, it is a setting supplement, a third party setting supplement for 5e.
But Kender.
I don't know if it was a Kender or not.
Okay.
The artwork had a halfling, and they had magic, I think.
That implies it. Well,
yep.
Which will be interesting too, because back in second edition days, halflings couldn't be wizards.
Right.
That's the other thing we forget. That we've taken for granted that when third edition hit, like the training wheels came off, and there was madness.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Halfling paladins.
Yes, gnome barbarians, and dwarven wizards. And but the Dragonlance books were written with second edition in mind, so the dwarves didn't have magic. They had to rely on asking elves to come cast spells, and now it's like, oh no, they totally can if they want to. And I'm curious to see how much they apply some of those old school, like, well, yes, normally you can, but in our world,
right?
I
don't know. I'm gonna glance at the picture again real quick.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. But there are so many neat little things from that world, between the gully dwarves, which are some of my favorite kind of like goofball slapstick fun, and the Kender, and it's Tracy and Laura Hickman, who are an amazing writing pair. And I also like that I should have said the Tracy Hickman and Laura Hickman, because they're being credited separately for all of this as well, which I also think is kind of cool. But that's supposed to be on Kickstarter this fall, of which there are only 2.5 months remaining.
Right. Well, October 22nd, I do believe, is the time. Yeah, in the artwork that they show, that basically they've got like a sky pirate, a human,
pirates.
An elf who's got some kind of magic, a halfling that's got magic, a amazing dragonborn with a big warhammer, and and a tabaxi with a sextant. So it's pretty awesome. I'm cranked. I
don't buy a lot of supplement books and read them cover to cover, but this might be another one that I go pick up and I snuggle up with at night. Plus, it's another excuse when we can all go back to conventions again to keep an eye on where the Hickmans are going to land, so I can sneak up there and go, I want you to sign this, please. Thank you.
Sign my book, please. Yeah.
Which will feel really good when we get there.
Yeah.
But it's really hard not to be excited for that. I keep thinking how much it would be fun to do like a wizarding school campaign or long extended adventure. But I don't know if I want to do all the work to learn the Magic the Gathering lore material that's going to be in this new supplement we're supposed to get in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I like that they're doing it. I'm glad that they're partnering. It makes sense that the wheel has turned full circle, and that Magic is back tied to Dungeons and Dragons, which is what it was ages and ages ago, or at least they tried to once upon a time.
Yeah.
But just not excited for it.
Yeah. Well, and I play over on Indoor's channel and Indoor Adventures, and he's a massive Magic the Gathering fan. So I've been lucky enough to play a short run campaign in Ravnica, which was the first Magic the Gathering book that came out for 5e. So they've done a great job, and of course they've got amazing artists because it's Magic the Gathering. So, all the artwork and stuff was just fantastic. I've been listening to a bunch of older, I keep realizing after I start listening to them that they're older fantasy series that were written in like the late 80s and stuff.
Oh gosh.
And it's really funny because they're not official D&D, but you can tell that they're like the one I'm listening to right now. It is someone's D&D adventure. I mean, they as they're moving through the dungeon, 20 feet to the corner, and then the corner turns left, and 30 feet down, and every 5 feet there's torches in brackets. I mean, I could draw the maps. they're someone is mapping this out as they're going through the event. It's so blatant that
that is fun. Welcome, Vashon, by the way. We're glad to have you chilling out with us on the happy hour. It was funny when I was in high school playing D&D. I got put in charge of making the maps, and I made them like a gnome, using a lot of the Dragonlance gnome in my head. Nobody understands how gnomes work except gnomes, yet it works. And I was terrible about planning my graph paper. So I was graphing, and I would run out of paper. So I'd graph the hallway, I'd make a dot, I'd label it A, and somewhere else I'd make an A, and I'd continue the hallway. And what would end up happening is, like, at the end of a 3 or 4 days of playing off and on, we'd look, and like nobody could figure out where we were going because the map was just this spaghetti of disconnected hallways and rooms. And welcome aboard, Rasha, as we're reminiscing a little bit before we get into the week's topic. But it was nuts. And I'm hoping they bring back some of that lore, because the gnome naming convention from Dragonlance was so much fun.
Yeah.
Go for it.
As far as mapping goes, I ended up I would draw the map and hand the map back to them because it would just be so frustrating. Well, that doesn't, because I would tell them what they are, and then I would be like, and they would say things like, well, that doesn't work. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but what I have described to you is what's on this paper. Oh, this is wrong. And they'd hand the map to me. So finally I did that. And then once we started using miniatures a lot, what we did was I'd have the table, or I'd have a big hunk of cardboard, and I would put down matchsticks, and each matchstick was 10 feet. And so there would be all these I would just build the dungeon as we went, made out of matchsticks,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was nice. It was fun. But back then you'd be like, we need 20 zombies. All right, everybody, how much change do you got in your pockets? zombies. You know, you just
Wait,
throw down.
are the D6s the zombies or are the D12s? No, the
Exactly.
D12s are the zombie lords.
Yep.
The D6s are the zombie minions. The actual zombies are represented by D4s.
And those Lego blocks over there, those are your horses. You know, you put your guys on your Lego block to be on your horse. You know.
Yes, the good old days. The good old
Ancient
days.
times.
Indeed. But no, I'm excited to see the new book coming up with the Sky Raiders. I think oddly enough, D&D has been very, it's been a while since we've had a Sky Pirate thing where that was part of the universe.
Eberron.
It's been there. Where that's just, I mean, we've had pirates sort of, but they've always tried to stay very high fantasy or like fantasy tech. But it's about, I mean, it's a little bit of like kind of thinking like, how come this isn't a bigger part of the game? So I'm excited to see what they do. I can't wait to back them on Kickstarter and get in on that because they're brilliant. And I may or may not do something like reach out ahead of time to say, if I got my hands on some materials, I could be running stuff.
How about your debut? We're willing. Let's do this.
Advanced review copies, maybe. And we could do that. So yeah. So Hickman's, if you're listening, please let us know. oldtimertavern@gmail.com. Just drop us a note.
PDFs are welcome.
At this point, I will slaughter the lambs myself to bring you the vellum that you can then scribe it on.
There it is.
I'm willing to go old school if that's what it takes.
Squeeze an octopus. Get some ink.
We should stop before this gets weird.
before it gets weird.
Okay, so speaking of weird, one of the things that was on my mind a lot the last week, and this is why I pitched it before. I had pitched it as a possible topic, and I have expected you to run screaming from it, so it worked out great. Is as you know, I've been working on my Kickstarter for my next stream campaign has been running, and it's got me thinking more. And at the same time, I saw on Facebook an ad for a company that was hiring dungeon masters.
Yeah.
And I kind of got into okay, let's talk about it. Let's address the elephant in the room, and not just that one Republican that comes around, but everyone's welcome, by the way. But really kind of just like this, how are ways we can have seen, have tried, experienced to at least cover pizza money, if not go to, and you've seen the articles, full-time status.
Yeah.
I mean, we are men of a certain age, so we should be thinking about retiring, but we also have mortgages and house elves and et cetera to pay the bills with. Let's
wizard schools to pay for very soon for the next couple of years. Oh, why couldn't I have raised muggles? No,
yeah, man, them brooms. The Nimbus 2020, that one was a clunker, but the Nimbus 2021, that sucker is a must-have these days with the kids, and they ain't cheap. See, that's what we're talking about.
Sorry, so much noise. All right, sorry. I love my props.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because the times have changed so much, so quickly, really. I mean, it would have been a thing where if even, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, you were like, well, I'm a professional dungeon master, and people have been like, you know,
or they would have gone, are you sure that's appropriate to share at work?
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Should I be calling HR?
Yeah.
To which a friend always asks, if you've never been in an HR meeting, are you really living? And that person works in HR, by the way. So
right.
Context. But Joe, you're not wrong. It's a relative. Feel like it's a relatively new phenomenon over the last 5 or 6 years, and I think partially from Stranger Things has helped a lot.
Mm,
Getting people to Stranger Things and Critical Role have made more people interested in what Dungeons and Dragons is,
yeah,
coupled with, oh my gosh, it looks like so much work to set up. I
yeah,
could never do it. My friends could never do it. We will never play D&D unless we find someone to do it for us.
right.
And then a little bit of, I feel like just a pinch of not knowing better.
Nah, that's feasible. Yeah.
Well, and here's why I say that. I remember not more than 10 years ago, you go into your friendly local game store and there's a bulletin board with a bunch of thumbtacks and, hey, I am free on Saturdays. I'm looking to play in a D&D game. Has anyone got any openings in their game? People posting, hey, I'm looking at running a game on alternate Thursday nights. We can do it here at the store. Here's kind of like my short vision for it. Tack.
Hmm.
And I don't ever remember seeing back in the days anyone saying $20 per head.
Right. Right. And I remember when it first started to be an internet thing, like I said, about 5 years ago or so, and it was $10 a player, 3 hour session, and X number of seats. And so, like, you know, 6 players, $10 each, $60 for 3 hours. I'm like, okay, that's $20 an hour. All right. I mean, if that's your gig, go for it.
Yeah.
I could not, personally, I don't think I could live up to that expectation.
I hear you very much. I think
Mm,
that sense of like, I suffer them that when I get hired to tutor.
mm,
Because tutoring is a little bit more, at least in this area, pays a little more than that. But I still kind
mm.
of stop and go, I don't know if I'm really doing that much work for
Right.
what I'm being paid.
Yeah.
Um, and then I kind of think, well, yeah, but I had to block out half an hour of my night before and half an hour of my night after, and it's usually one student at a time, and
Mm,
it kind of starts to work its way down. Um, but yeah, no, that sense of, am I going to hit the benchmarks these people are expecting is weird. The other thing I've seen besides just like the online stuff, I've read some articles and I haven't found it locally, but
mm.
the idea of like a bar or like a small time brewery
Yeah.
doing things like having a D&D night where the first 20 people get seated at D&D tables and they
Mm.
get to play D&D for the night, and then the bar pays somebody to run a game of D&D while they're there.
Right.
So if you get there
Yeah.
within the setup window, you can get a D&D table and you can have your microbrews and you're playing D&D while you're there, and they've got all the miniatures set up. And with that situation, which I personally find much more palatable for
Mm.
the way I handle my own sense of self, is it's all provided as like an entertainment opportunity, but not a direct, like, I'm not taking money from players. I'm
Right.
I'm taking money from the establishment to provide an entertainment source,
Yeah.
because I think that changes some of the calculus a little bit.
Well, yeah, because again, if somebody then has any kind of an issue, they didn't shell out money out of their own pocket. And so if they complain to the owner or whatever, then it's on the owner to then talk to you and or whatever. There's no money back because there was no money given, you know.
Right. And even and sure that too, the owner came and say, well, you didn't pay to sit at the D&D table.
Hmm.
Like, you came in and you grabbed a seat and they asked
Yep.
you to hang out for 2 hours. And now he's asking you not to hang out because the two women at the table have multiple times told you to stop commenting on their chests.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have choices. One of them is leave, one is leave, and the last one is buy a growler and leave.
You can leave by county sheriff car or by your own car. It's
Yeah,
those are options.
there's all
Uh,
there is to it. So I changed it. But that thing, though, kind of happened when I was working for the youth center.
yeah.
They hired me in to run a D&D game, and there
Oh.
were two things I bumped into. One of them was a young man who had issues. He was generally a nice young man, but he had sometimes he had difficulty controlling his frustration, and it became very difficult to run the game with him at the table.
Right.
And it was one of those where it's like I was happy to try to work through it with him, but at the same time, it's like other people are getting up and leaving, or they're calling for rides home early because of the. And then how do you manage that situation?
Right.
And then the other twist was having someone show up super late with 9 people already at the table, and then I said, "I'm really sorry, you just can't play this week. We've already started, and there's already 9 people here, and there's just me trying to be the dungeon master." I got talking to from my boss with everyone that comes to the center pays a membership fee, and they expect someone to run Dungeons and Dragons, and they all expect somebody to be able. They all expect to be able to play Dungeons and Dragons on Friday.
Yeah.
So you'll have to figure some way to accommodate him. And it was very challenging experience to go, but the right thing to do is to say no. But now that we've got money involved, I don't have that freedom. I have to make it work.
Yeah, we're going to bring down the experience of everyone here because we have to have everyone here.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too. I think looking back on that experience, I would have rather been hired to run a D&D club than to be a professional dungeon master.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a little bit on me and a little bit on them because they advertised professional dungeon master wanted. And what they really wanted was someone to come in and coach the kids on running D&D and develop their own games, develop their own tables, develop their own culture.
Yeah.
And I think as we come out of the pandemic, I might even reach out again to that or other establishments to say, this is the thing I can do for you.
Right.
And then I'm not getting paid to run D&D. I'm getting paid to help organize teens, which doesn't feel so weird.
Yeah. You're again, the onus isn't on you to provide a specific experience. The onus is on you to, teach a DM for someone and they have an adventure for a day. Teach them to DM and they could adventure for a lifetime. So, or something like that.
I'm just dropping a pin so I can come back and clip that.
Oh, I see. Anyway,
because that's a keeper.
Because because if you've got, so this is great timing for this segue because the oldest elf has their first or second meeting on Thursday of the high school's D&D club. And last year it was maybe 8 or 10 of them. And this year they had like 3 or 4 times as many kids.
Nice.
So they got like 30 or 40 kids who want to be part of the D&D club. So
good problem to have.
Yeah. So we'll see
lie.
how it shakes out on Thursday for her and for them. So So again, it's if you got someone who's organizing rather than being paid to here's my professionally made maps and I've brought this case of minis and
Yeah, and I think that's where it feels like it just gets a little weird, coupled with sometimes the games don't go the way you want them to. Sometimes the dice don't work out. Sometimes there's a plot shift where you're like, oh, I don't like that plot shift. And I feel like money just makes it trickier to have an authentic experience, because you're not just making sure your players are having fun, but you're also weighing against, and they have to bring their money next week.
Right. Right. Because I can see where that leads to the old fashioned Monty Hall campaign. This 6 games in, everybody's at 3rd level. They've got +3 plate mail and, Holy Avengers. And here's a wand of fireball. Woo! I love this game,
I mean, I guess one could argue that no matter whether or not where there's money exchanging, we always want our players to have a good time. And we want them to feel empowered to come back the next week, and we want them excited. And I mean, I'm still thinking about the dragon back fight. as one of those, like, I'm pretty sure everyone's coming back next week after that. Um, and in a lot of ways, practices like, the Monty Hall thing would normally self-correct because players would get bored because they're overpowered and they'd start to flit off anyways.
Yeah.
But I, as Seki chimes in, you paid for the movie ticket. Doesn't mean the movie has to be the best movie you've seen. Yes, but bear in mind, too, Dungeons & Dragons has a lot of competition for your time, I think is part of it. And it's really hard to get your money back when it's a bad movie.
Yeah.
That said, I have successfully done it. I have walked up to the manager after a film and said, I'm really sorry. You owe me for that one. I'd like to talk to who I need to talk to, but that movie was so bad. I think you need to give me a refund or a free pass to another film.
Right.
And the good news for you, I'll buy more popcorn next time. So you'll still make money.
You're still going to make $30 on popcorn. Yeah.
Yep. I've given free movie coupons. No questions asked. Yeah. Yeah. That's, we're on the same page. We're on the same page. And it was the one with Nicolas Cage and the End of the World. It was one of those like apocalypse movies, and I thought it would be this really interesting. And it's like the last half hour was just, I don't know what I'm watching or why I'm watching it, but there's no more Nicolas Cage anymore. And welcome, Phoenix. Glad to have you chilling out this fine happy hour. So, and the other thing I thought was interesting, and I'm not going to besmirch this model, but I'm curious about your take on it. So there are websites out there that are like Tinder for gamers, where you go in, you say, this is the kind of game I want. It says, here are like 20 DMs that are running games in the window you want. Here are their tables. Here's what they charge. Sign up and go.
Yep.
And I kind of like, I'm coming around to that. I'm even flirting with the idea of maybe doing something on one of them. Because I can go in and say, look, I use Zoom, I use Jamboard, I use this website for initiative tracking. That's what I do. You have to be on D&D Beyond. Here are the character levels. And if my table fills up, great. And if it don't, darn. But this one's a different website. They give the DMs the adventure to run. So it's all pre-written. And it's a flat, the players pay the company, the website, to run for the adventure. The DMs are employees of the website running it.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are because I think a lot of these must have come out of the convention circuit, because you'll see there are companies that will come in and do conventions, and the conventions will pay the company to have like 6 tables of people playing, whatever, champions or, all the Magpie games stuff or Cypher or, that kind of stuff. And I think that must be where this kind of thing is coming from. And I can see it where if you advertised it right, like for me, I would be like Saturday morning, 8 a.m., $10 a head or whatever, and here we go. We're going to play Dungeon World. It's all beer and pretzels all the time. It's just going to be a goofy, stupid 3-hour session of improv idiocy, and I would do that every week for, $50. So I guess the tech is out there. It's not like you're driving, 6 hours to Gen Con or Origins or something.
True.
And then, by Sunday afternoon, you just want to roll into a ball in a fetal position and die, because it's not like it's not like you're sitting across the table from them. It's okay, you have now broken the rules of the game, click, and they're gone. I don't know. I can still see a lot of problems because it's playing with random people, which is like conventioning, which is my only experience in this realm, really.
And conventions, I mean, I've played with some really great groups at conventions.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, my experience playing kids on bikes
Mm.
at Origins,
Mm.
I believe it was at Origins, and it was right after it had come out. Um, yep, it was Origins,
Mm-hmm.
and or was it? No, it was Gen Con.
I was going to say it was probably
It
Gen
was
Con,
Gen
like
Con. They'd
right
run it at
after it came out.
Origins, and I couldn't get into it. I think.
Mm.
Um, but I'm trying. I remember my brain is rocketing through what room we were in, how I had to get there, the long hallway. I'm pretty sure it was downtown Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But it might not have been. Either way, not important to the story. But I think if I hadn't played with that group and that game master who was really good at getting out of the way of the story and
Right.
letting everybody role play, and then I got really lucky because I got paired with my character got paired with somebody, and we riffed off each other the entire night.
Oh,
We were
nice.
we were both slacker kids.
Mm.
He was the burnout that always got caught, and I was the burnout teenage girl that nobody ever looked at. So like both of us would
Right.
cut class to go smoking, but
Right.
I would just put my cigarette out and go back inside and no one would say anything. And if he walked out the door, he was like slapped with a detention ticket.
Right.
And
Right.
we just riffed on it the whole night.
Yeah.
And it was fun, and it was like I gained a chance to role play instead of constantly changing up characters, but like kind of developing this character out a bit. And a lot of it's based on students I've had, so it's like I know this kid, I know that kid. We're gonna put them
Yeah.
in. It was so much fun. So it worked out. But I've also been at some tables where I'm like, eh.
Yeah. For instance, I've got a question coming up, but so I used to go to a lot of military war game conventions,
Mhm.
and it got to the point where there's kind of a circuit, of local ones that are like in the state, and I never forget a face. I mean, I never remember a name, but I never forget a face. And I would wait to the last minute to sign up for something watching, and I'd be like, nope, not playing with that guy. Okay, I gotta find something else because it's just, certain people just, oh, they want to play their tin soldiers a certain way, and if you don't play the same way, they get very upset
They
with
get
you.
cranky.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you changing to skirmish formation? This is not a situation that requires skirmish formation. You don't need the extra move. You need to stay. You need to stay in line. I
Yes,
mean, and why is your reserve in line formation? They need to be in columns so they can be more mobile. No,
exactly.
there's zero chance they're going to attack you right now. I don't care how pretty your minis look in their line formation. Put them back in column. I'll
I'm
wait.
a, I'm gonna be the vanguard of the fleet, and I'm cutting the T's on everyone. I'm gonna thread the needle. Like 6 of my ships are gonna try to slide between the Spanish and crossfire and probably blow each other up. I don't care. Look at it. It's gonna be so good.
I
Yeah.
saw parts of the Caribbean. I know how this naval combat works.
Exactly.
Um,
The question, real
Question.
quick, before I completely derail and forget it, what, how, now that we're talking about this, how would you feel about playing or paying to play? Like, say you didn't have, a half dozen games you were playing every week, and you were like, man, I want to play some D&D. What do you think? Would you shell $10 for 3 hours?
Okay, so that's a great question that definitely puts me on the spot.
Nope. Sorry.
And I appreciate that we are comfortable enough with each other that we can do that to each other. Honestly, I don't think I would. And I
Mm.
think part of that is I'm lucky enough with the time I have, I'm still able to find groups. And I feel like personally I would prefer to see more tools for connecting groups powered by things like banner ads or sponsorships than I would to see paid matchmaking services.
Right.
And that's kind of my personal take. Now I understand there's some people that are like, well, I don't have your friend circle. I don't have a channel I can use as a platform to say, hey, I'm a great guy. You should game with me. I'm just trying to find my footing. And that so I look at things like, especially now that the pandemic in theory is coming on to a close.
Mm.
But using posting at your friendly local game store for local people. Molly, who is one of like my favorite people to game with right now, found me through D&D Beyond's forums.
Oh,
She was just going through the games and went, well, that game looks interesting,
yeah.
and emailed me and said, hey, do you think you got room for me at your table? And I went, I think I do.
Right.
And literally within 48 hours, we had her on stream playing D&D with us.
Nice.
And that was with the extra
Nice.
caveat of, do you have a camera? Do you have a mic? Do you have some screen presence? I mean, if we take that away because we're just hanging out at the game table and just a little bit of a, do you have some references?
Mm.
Have you been part of this community? Do I recognize your name? I don't know. I mean, I can totally understand people saying, I want to get into it. I want to meet people, but I almost see the paid game as a gateway to hopefully becoming friends and you start meeting somewhere else.
Right.
I
Right.
think that's a big part. That's kind of my take on it because I
Yeah.
also see where it can get like the one I mentioned before. And by the way, Juggernaut, thank you for gifting that sub to Phoenix. It's glad to have your support in the community as always. And to remind the podcast listeners what that audio tone was.
Yeah.
The company I mentioned that pays the DMs directly. And this is where I think things start to get even more like we can debate a little bit of the potential jankiness
Mm-hmm.
of pay to play. And I respect people who do it on both sides.
Yeah.
I think there is something to be said for there's a lot of work to putting a game together if it's original content. I understand wanting to see a return on that investment of time. Totally get that. This company, I'm curious as your take on it. So I'll put you on the spot for this.
All right.
Not only do you, is everything run by the company,
Mm-hmm.
but the players buy gold with real money.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
So if you want to start with studded leather instead of
Mhm.
the usual leather,
Right.
you can pay a little bit of extra to get into that. And that's where I think things get I mean, what to clarify, the adventures are pre-written. So it's like
Yeah.
the DM, in theory, the company doesn't decide what your treasure advancement is. And we will assume it is relatively appropriate. Like you're not going to get to level 5 and go, well, I'm going to be a dead man walking if I don't pay up to get the half plate
Right.
because I'm the fighter and I'm still working with my chainmail shirt. We'll assume that the buying yourself a +1 mace is really just the extra 5%
Yeah.
that you get
Yeah.
on all rolls and not a, well, now you're facing vampires and they're resistant to non-magical damage.
Right.
What's your take on that?
So, as someone who every year for the past 4 or 5 years that I've gone to Gen Con, which I did not in the plague and because there wasn't, and I won't be this year. Sorry. Those who I would adore to see there. There is a thing called True Dungeon.
Yes.
And True Dungeon is like that because you can go online, you can trade your tokens, you can buy more tokens, you can buy grab bags of tokens, you can buy tokens there. They have a shop, you can buy specific tokens and it costs you a lot. Anyway, there's a market for it. And I just can't. I do it every year, but I don't ever, that's the once a year situation. I say I'm going to spend $100 on this stupid thing because I love it, but it's my vacation, so I can do what I want.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
to do that like every week or whatever, I don't know, man. That's kind of hardcore. But
Well, now,
there's the microtransaction system of gaming out there, and people are used to it. They're like, I'm playing along. Oh, it's gonna take an hour for me to build this tower in the game, or I can click the microtransaction and pay $1, and then I get 1,000 gold, and this cost me 1,000 gold to not wait a half an hour.
Well, but the thing is, okay, and this is where it feels weird. Like, I look at that, especially with the Facebook-ish games, which I know they're not Facebook games anymore. They're all apps now.
Yeah.
I think of them as the games you play on Facebook. Time is a precious commodity, and so being able to say, okay, I need this now so I can keep playing the game, you're effectively paying to play the game.
Right.
What I'm always nervous about are things like pay for XP boosts, because now it's like now you're paying to not play the game, because now you're paying to skip content. Like, if this game is well developed, the last thing I wanted. Here's the thing that used to happen in City of Heroes. City of Heroes, for those unfamiliar, is one of the best MMOs, bar none, ever created. It was a superhero game, took place inside a neat little town. Hold on, chat is in here. Private party pay money towards extra gold. Money is used towards a group buying books. Okay, pin that. But what would happen in City of Heroes, if you died, there was what was called the death penalty, and your next X experience points only counted for half. And the more you died, the longer that debt would stretch out. So you might spend an hour only earning half experience points.
Yeah.
To discourage you from doing stupid stuff like, hey, you died. Try not to do that again. Please don't do these things. They don't work for your character. But there were people that would literally go out of their way to die repeatedly. So they would have all this massive debt racked up and go, okay, now I get to level at half speed, and that's what I wanted.
So I can play longer.
So I can play all the things, because if you played the game straight, you would skip stuff. You would miss whole story arcs. You would miss whole raids because you outlevel it.
Right.
And so this system was in play, and people would do this to avoid outleveling things so they could enjoy the game. So I always look at things like that, pay for the XP boost, like that to me is a real no-go.
Right.
To speed things along. And as for the LARPing side, oh my gosh, I used to pay way more. Like, I didn't pay way more, but I've paid my fair share to do LARPs.
Yeah.
But in that one, there was never a microtransaction option. It was always, if you wanted it, you had to earn it in game. But then you were also kind of like beholden to what the people running the game thought was appropriate for your character to find. So like I could really see that becoming abused in some systems of, well, it was a rough weekend. You're going to probably want some more healing potions before next weekend. You should check our online store. I don't know how long I would have lasted, because then my brain is like, are they throwing harder stuff at my character to get me to buy more potions? Are they like, what? But do bad things happen because I suck or because they suck?
Right. Oh, if only you had the fireball spell available at the merchant's store now to get past the trolls at the bridge. I'm a fighter. Oh, if only you could hire the mage to go with you to cast the fireballs. Yeah.
So Juggernaut's idea was to, for a private party, pay money for the extra gold, and then that money goes towards group things like books, scenery, pizza fund. I think that's not the worst thing I've ever heard. I think that can really work if the group gets it, and the people who can't afford it don't feel, or don't want to afford it, don't feel like they're on the short end of a stick.
Right.
You kind of have to know your group. Like, I can think of some environments where I would be uncomfortable. We're bumping into that with dance, where it's like we just don't have the money to keep throwing at extra classes for the kids. Right. But that also means that when we do performances, there are dances they don't perform because we didn't pony up for them to learn those dances.
Right.
And that's a real weird situation that I'm trying to navigate, because it's like, I want them to have every opportunity they can have to participate, but I feel a little weird paying an extra fee for them to learn these extra opportunities.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, a well-established group where you know the money isn't just going to disappear. And that's a big one. The biggest thing with that, though, if it's anything hard, like the books, the scenery, you should have a plan for the divorce.
Right.
So, like, if every week everyone who can pitches in an extra $5 towards the group equipment, and
Hmm.
then everyone that pitched in gets to start the game at inspiration.
Yeah.
What's the plan for when the group is done? Who gets to keep the scenery? Now, obviously, as a longtime dungeon master, I would say the DM keeps it.
Right.
And I can actually see a lot of groups going, well, Rob already does a lot of the work, so he may as well keep all the stuff. Like, that makes some sense too. So I'd be down with that. I mean, that makes sense. But have a plan.
Right.
We're all going to pitch in. Rob's going to buy some dungeon stuff so we can have a really cool 3D table going. And he'll live at his house. And if anything happens, it's kind of his. But he's expected to bring it every week.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The guy who orders and stops and gets the pizzas doesn't throw the $5 in because he's,
Yep.
how's the saying? Something about you fly, I buy. You buy, I fly. Yeah, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I've also played I provided the pop, I provided the house. I got to clean up after all you guys. I'm not pitching in $5 on the pizza.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way it works.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, the DM is usually the host, although that one can change.
Mm-hmm.
I've been the DM in a couple of games where I've gone to people's houses to DM. That depends on how your group works.
Well, and the few local in-person games I've been involved in the last 5-10 years, it's really funny because I have an entire basement of this stuff, and so when somebody's like, oh, I'm gonna run a D&D campaign, I'm like, do you want battle tiles, what kind of miniatures do you want me to bring? And I'll bring like a travel case of miniatures,
So I hear you're running a D&D game. Do you want pre-made battle maps, or are you looking for individual tiles?
Exactly.
I got
I know.
minis. Okay, they're down here.
Come in with a cart, because I used to go to LB's house, and it was like I would, it would be like 3 or 4 bags and the minis case and
just in case we need them.
And so finally I made a set of minis that lived at her house. This was just these lived here, So
wow, that's commitment, my man. That's like leaving your toothbrush level stuff.
I'm just saying, there's thousands of minis down here. Thousands.
That's fair. Which then kind of gets us to the next piece of this all, which is the Patreon versus Kickstarter, which I did want to touch base on for 2 reasons. One, this is the last week of the Kickstarter I'm running for Convergence, and it is proving to be way more successful than I thought it would be in ways I didn't expect it to be successful. Like, I was really, like, my vision when I put it together, and I'll just kind of throw it out there, a little inside baseball here. I expected a lot of my regular channel viewers to just pop over, drop $5, buy a little bronze sponsorship, because it feels good to go, well, I could cheer, or I could spend $5 on the Kickstarter. I'll do the Kickstarter, then my name will always be in the credits.
Right.
And it's been the exact opposite. I've had I've been very fortunate that I have a very supportive community that went all after the big ticket items. So like I pushed live on the Kickstarter, and it was a race between 3 people to snag the top back where they got to collaborate on creating and naming a major NPC. Like that was gone in an instant. I've had a lot of the individual episode sponsorships have been scooped up. I had someone ask me, can I sponsor a second episode? Because I've already backed you for one and I want to sponsor more episodes. So I had to go in there to Kickstarter and go, okay, well, here's how you get in on more episodes. And I'm watching the stock of the 2 of them to make sure they stay, like, I don't have more sponsors than I will have episodes. Because that would be bad. I don't want to do that. But
Well,
like,
guys, we've got a second season to run.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if I'll kickstart a second season or not. I'm kind of leaning towards it because it seems to be a nice way to, here's my budget.
Yep.
And that's been so far, I think, because the community is very supportive and very generous. And I love all of you dearly, not because of that, but alongside of that.
Mm.
It's been kind of a weird experience. And I haven't really put a lot into looking at Patreon yet
Right.
for the stuff. I've been kind of like getting by with how Twitch works, and then through the Kickstarter. Have you done a lot with Patreon yet?
I have not. I dodged it because I was walking away from my own streaming. Like I used to stream 5 days a week, and when Patreon came on the scene, I was downing, getting rid of my personal streams and doing other people's shows. And so I just thought there's no way I can do the content to produce on that if my focus is on all these other channels. I didn't feel like I had a big enough platform for it. So I have not done much with Patreon, but there's plenty of folks out there who are in my orbit who do. And it's nice. It's a part of it is, you fire and forget. So if people are giving you $1 a month, they don't even think about it. They buy in for like $5 a month. A lot of people still won't, they might once in a while go, Patreon, what the hell am I? Oh yeah. But
Yeah,
it's not even noticed. And if you've got, if you've got 20 backers at $5 a month, that's $100 a month,
that's not
you
bad.
know? No.
That's not bad at
And
all.
and why not?
And
You
that's
know.
and that's actually that actually is what has kept me from getting into Patreon,
Mm,
because I am hyper reluctant to do Patreon myself to support things,
mm,
because I don't want to get trapped in the 6 months, 9 months. So here's how this works. The last time I played World of Warcraft
mm.
was just after the pandas came out. Okay, so for some context,
Right, right.
that I may have played it for a month or two the summer I broke my foot.
Mm,
So that was 2 summers ago.
mm,
When the Activision lawsuit came out, we sat down and went, okay, we need to make sure we're not currently spending money on Activision Blizzard products. We'll go
mhm.
back once we feel everything has been settled down, but we want to double check. And I had still been paying my my World of Warcraft subscription
Right.
every month. So like I am hyper nervous, and I'll even admit on Twitch I tend to cheer and gift sub way more than I sub.
Yes.
Like if I really like a way a streamer, what's going on with a streamer, I really want to show support for a streamer, I will gift sub to their community. I will cheer, but I am like hyper aware of like, mm, mm,
Auto payments, man.
yeah,
I can't do it because I forget, and then it snowballs horribly.
yeah. I have some
So,
subs, but I have to watch how many I can have, because
yep.
I don't want to get to that spot where my Twitch pays for Twitch,
Hmm.
and not the little things I like to have to help flesh out everything
Yeah.
else we do. So I've been very shy about Patreon. Plus, I don't know if I can feel like I'm generating enough content to make people feel like it's worth it.
And that would be it. The thing would be where, so and that was part of my thinking about it too, was okay, if I have $1 things, if you can only be $1, then I will not feel bad if 1 month I don't churn something out. But if I have $5 and $10 memberships, there I I'm gonna there will be a product.
Yeah.
There will be something for them.
Uh-huh.
Whether it's because a lot of people, that's how they do their upper end Patreon, is by DMing games for people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's back to this original topic again, that if you're my $20 or $50 backer or whatever, one Thursday a month we get together and or whatever. So that's one that I've seen a lot of. And it's really funny because the channels that have blown up to, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, they've all had to back out of that because they get those backers, and all of a sudden it's like every night a week they're supposed to be
There
they're
aren't
supposed
enough
to be
minutes in the
dimming.
day to
Exactly.
accommodate, which again, that's not the worst problem to have. I can think of worse problems than having to like recruit dungeon masters because you need to spin off your channel.
Mm-hmm.
I realize you backed in order to get into one of my games, but this guy's really good too.
Mm-hmm.
And with the two of us, we can make it all work. So that's why it's definitely tricky
Yeah,
to make it all work.
my last thing on like a Patreon or pay to play DMing would be reusing content.
Mm-hmm.
Like Pathfinder Society and D&D Adventures and Living Greyhawk and all those kind of things. I just, you would have to have something going along to where you could churn out enough things to replay in a timely manner that wouldn't just burn you out completely. I can see it would be a harsh business.
Yeah, Juggernaut mentions the it's only a problem if you're trying to hold down a regular job at the same time. You know what, I agree but disagree because scheduling as grown-ups is incredibly challenging. I don't know if I would feel right telling someone, yeah, sure, you backed me at this level, you get to play a session with me. Your session is on Tuesday, the 17th at 1 p.m.
Yes.
I hope you can get the time off work.
Right.
Because there's a lot of other layers of, or in the case of, for example, you Juggernaut, I hope you can get up at time because, we're in totally different time zones. So how are we going to, I guess you're going to have to make it work. And that's what my Candlekeep game bumped into.
Yeah.
Is we literally were supposed to play last weekend, and as we got like up to it, one of the players said, "Oh no, they've changed the soccer schedules," and another player went, "Okay, well, I can't do this other time we had talked about during the day because I've had something come up." And then we went to, well, how about this time? And then the other player went, "Well, yeah, but that means I have to start playing at 1:00 in the morning." And then we're all kind of like, I guess we're not playing this week. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little terrified that we're going to bump into we just never play again because we're grown-ups with schedules.
Yeah.
And that's, it happens. It happens despite your best intentions.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping we can work it out.
We've had that exact same thing over at Indoors for like 3 weeks. We have not played on Thursdays because it was like, one person had a relationship thing. I had to work late. Another person had something come up, and it just, so all of a sudden 3 weeks in a row we didn't play. It's like, wow.
What happened again? It's been a month. Which I think that's one of my, especially with virtual games, where I think it's a little bit easier to cancel than it is to say, no, darn it, I want to see you guys. I'm already on my way over. You keep the group small. Yeah. So you have less variables about who's dropping out. Yeah. And then in person, you can get a bigger group and go, well, we've got 5 out of the 7 of us. We're getting together to go. Built a good community, have quite a few friends who could do a one-off, at least keep the channel going until regular group can be reestablished. Yes, and I'm very lucky. In fact, Mr. Killian has been very vocal recently too. He's like, I really want to get back into a game again. And I'm like, yeah, I want to get one scheduled. July, I had too many one-shots running.
Right.
I was constantly recruiting for one-shots, and now I feel like I've got what's going on. I feel comfortable going back and saying, okay, I can do another one-shot. Let's throw out the net, see who's interested, and then come back together and do it.
You got a big enough stable.
Yeah, well, and more like I feel like I have the headspace to do it. Plus, I've got some original content I've written that I can keep recycling for players who haven't played through it yet.
Right.
And as long as the chat is kind, and
Yeah.
doesn't spoil it, which then gets into like the last part of, I think, funding, kind of a, the mo money, mo monsters idea is I do kind of like a lot of the engagement tools I've seen people use
Mm.
while playing. I mean, I don't, most D&D streams now have some kind of an audience participation benefits the
Oh
party,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and depending on the popularity of the channel, it seems to scale.
Yeah.
Like some channels, it's a 500 bits to get them a healing
Mm-hmm.
potion.
Yep.
And some of them, like when I usually play, it's 100 bits, gives them a reroll to be that they can bank. So bank your
Mm-hmm.
reroll for the important moments, and that seems to have worked mostly.
Yeah.
And it's something where I don't see it so much as a moneymaker as a audience engagement piece.
Right.
It's a way that chat can say, no, I really want to see this go better. Here's a token gift
Right.
to get us there.
Yeah. I've been on a lot of charity streams where it's been, bits or donations give you X,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be incredibly gratifying. Sorry. The bourbon's got me.
The
It can
bourbon's
be
got you.
really gratifying to be like, someone out there is like, okay, I'm gonna give $100 to save this character because I love this character, and you're like, you're doing it for charity, but you saving my keister. I need a minute. I'm gonna cry.
Which makes me think, what would be neat on a charity stream, and I should consider that. Get some decent single malt. We do not yuck other people's yums around here, man. Do not make us take out the band hammer. We do not yuck on people's yums. But something like, even for a charity stream, saying any donation greater than $1
Mm-hmm.
gets this, and then let the viewers say, you know what, it's going to a bird sanctuary. I'll throw
Mm-hmm.
$100 in so that Gray can get one reroll, and
Yep.
that's their freedom of donation. If someone else is like, man, I really want Gray to get a reroll, things are a little bit tight, I'll put down $5, but because it's
Yep.
going to a charity. And now we have chat debating the benefits
I
of
know.
bourbon.
Uh,
That's fine.
mm,
But I've been cheating today. I've been working my way through a Pepsi. I got a crap ton to do still tonight. Because, well, not quite there yet. But that is something that I do think it's good, but it's tough to get big using the Twitch finance tools.
yeah.
It's a nice pizza money, and it pays for my D&D Beyond subscription. But it's hard. It comes down to building a community and getting growing it steadily.
Yep. Yeah. Again, it's it is a crazy world and business, and it's nice when my thing used to be, I want to pay for my internet service because I have the stupid Blaze level, internet service. And so it was always good to be able to go, yes, I am spoiling myself so I can play Mech Warrior in real time, MMO style with my good internet and pay for that. That was always my goal. But there's times where, as you're building the channel, you get to a plateau unless you've got money to go to the next. You need a board, you need better cameras, you need better lights, so
because people expect to see it. And Liz, thank you for that absolutely kind comment. I do not consider myself fantastic. I consider myself middling at best. And I appreciate the kind words, although I guess I could also turn that around and say, well, if you think I'm good, clearly you know what good D&D looks like.
Can I segue with one of my stories?
Please.
I'll keep it short. So we used to run the Gamers Guild at the college here, and we had like 300 members. And this is back in the 90s. So this is like early 90s. And we had one guy who was just named Wolf. And that was his thing. And he would come in and he had a cane with a wolf's head and the little gem eyes, and he would come into the Gamers Guild and he would lord over and he would choose people for, if I were to allow you to play with me, I bring you into my game. I need to see what you can do, and I'll watch you play in other games first before I allow you at my table. You know, so just the characters. You know.
Well, that's been like that character is, I think, in very ways a trope born in reality, because I think we've had similar people. Although, to be fair, too, even the gentleman that I played with as a player in college had a little bit of like, I don't really want to invite you over to my house to play an RPG until I've played with you at
Yeah.
at the game club, or watched you play at the game club, because I just kind of want
Right.
to know how we're going to mesh. And then that might have been, in his case, a little bit more of the, I've invited people over to my house who have made inappropriate jokes in front of my girlfriend, and I've had to beat them to the point where EMS was called. So,
Right.
not the, okay, EMS was never called, but he did, like, that joke doesn't work. That's not
Yep.
funny to her. You're going to go home now. You decide. We're back to the, how would you like to go home?
Yeah. In the back of a police car, in the back of an ambulance, or in your own car.
Yeah, you
These are your
pick. You pick.
choices.
Because it's going to be one of the three. And so, in that sense, I have some respect for the, let me see how this works. And I've even kind of done that with stream, where I've had people say, I really want to play in a game. I heard you're looking for players. I'll say, have you been on other streams? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have anywhere I can get a sense for who you are before I
Mhm.
throw you up here with my community?
Yeah.
And
And that's a rough one I've seen in communities. People will watch your stream and then they'll end up on your Discord community and they'll just be like, you need to put me in your game. No, I don't. Oh, I'm great. Okay, I don't know you. This is there is a personal level to this, and there are short run campaigns. The reason I do a short run campaign is to see if you are going to get along with some of my other players, and maybe I can then bring you into or you let me get you on a one shot to
yeah,
see if you have a good camera and a good mic, and
yep.
so
And that's weird. And thank you for that too, Rasha. I appreciate that. I try. I also know for a fact that I run roller coaster games way more than sandboxes, which has
mhm.
me really excited for. And that's a good segue, given the hour,
Mm,
into tomorrow night. We are actually not continuing Valley of Plenty. We're taking a week off. We are going to be doing the session 0 for the Convergence, which is the one that's on Kickstarter. We're getting all the players together. To be fair, part of the reason we're doing it is I've been kind of like poking them to say, hey, we cleared the character art stretch goals, so
mm,
you need a character so we can get the artist working on your character pictures.
right.
And multiple players have gone, I don't know, like, I love D&D, I love the concept of the world you've pitched. I don't know enough about the world to have a character yet. And so
Right.
we're going to use the night to be a brainstorming session about the world. We're going to be using the night to brainstorm our characters. I don't think we're going to roll them on D&D Beyond Live.
Mm,
I think we're going to just like spend the evening talking and maybe doing a little backstory chat before we break out the kids on bikes thing, which
mhm.
we might do a session 0 part 2 at some point,
Right.
because I absolutely love streaming that. I think it's fun to engage everyone with that, and the laughters are the stories can be really slick.
Yeah.
Um, but then there's also we're going to have, I think the artist doing the character work is coming for some of the evening, and the
Hmm.
musician who's going to be providing the theme music is
Right.
dropping in, uh, both to kind of introduce herself to the players, maybe get a couple ideas what they think might be interesting. And it's weird because I said, well, here's my aesthetic. I really like the driving beat of the Magnum PI theme, but I also really like, I feel the vibe of I Need a Hero
Hmm. Hmm.
by Bonnie
Hmm.
Raitt, and I
Yep.
kind of want whatever we have as a theme to be like really heavy on things like heroism, courage, perseverance,
Hmm.
survival,
Hmm.
because it's post-apocalyptic, but
Mm.
it's a heroic story. And the
Right.
characters are I never run non-hero games. I really don't like running anti-hero games. So
Right.
they're going to be heroes. The Pokemon theme song. Okay. Okay, let me level. Yes. There it is. I mean, something like that.
Right.
And I even pitched the idea, then I'm not joking, where I said I wouldn't mind if like the first 10 seconds was kind of like ground laying, so I could
Mm.
do like some images of a convergence happening, some good, some good free to download Aurora type stuff
Oh
to help
yeah.
lay the setting, and then we ramp it up as we introduce the characters.
Dun, 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 dun. Eye
Yeah,
of the
a
Tiger.
little bit. To kind of help create an arc in the like. I really wish I'd storyboarded this and just handed it to her and go, "Here's the storyboard for the intro."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I have to go see what I can get on the cheap when it comes to royalty free pictures, because I
Right.
do my homework.
Mm.
I do make sure that things I use in the streams are as close to royalty free as I can get,
Right.
or I pay for them
Mm.
because I get it. Artists created it, and if the artist wants money, they should get paid.
Yep.
So I'm totally down. That's Wednesday night. We're going to be doing that, which I'm really geeked about. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then Sunday night, we're back to Curse of Strahd, which is going to also be kind of crazy. And then I figured out where to put it. I haven't, aside from Azteki, Azteki became a dragon.
Mm.
So we have now had a dragon in that Dungeons and Dragons game. It's the first dragon they've had
Yeah.
in 10 months of playing.
Oh.
That was their first dragon.
Oh. Okay. All right.
And then I've decided that I can't let the Valley of Plenty players get jealous.
Mm.
And I will say no more, except that when they sit down and stop and go, we're in a mist surrounded valley where there's no sunlight and there are zombies constantly attacking. Where's the dragon again?
Mm.
So that should be a lot of fun to do. I lost 3 characters to Curse of Strahd. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And thank you for that, for Juggernaut. We will be in touch about that if things don't work out with Vet. I think she's kind of geeked to be on board. She just joined Twitch yesterday.
Mm.
And I
Nice.
mentioned the live music community. I would not be shocked if I turn her into a streamer. Because streaming music is one of my favorite things to have found on Twitch.
Yeah.
But yes, Curse of Strahd you can easily eat up characters in Curse of Strahd if that's the way your DM runs it.
Mm.
And nothing, again, I don't yuck on yums.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have mad respect for people who go in there going, you know what? If you die, you die. Because that's the way we're rolling.
This is Barovia.
It is. It is. We ended up changing the stream title last time because they found Escher, who, of not mild spoiler for those that don't follow it, is one of Strahd's other consorts.
Yeah.
And I played him a little. Probably a little more effeminate than I was intending to do, but he was all. Well, so here's what happens. They walk into the room.
Well, you're getting the real scoop here.
We do the brief introductions, and then he turns to Nebula's character, Samara, and goes, all right, now let's just get real. Which one of these is with you? Hang on. Don't tell me. Let me guess.
Yeah.
Not that one. She's like, what, 14? You look like you have some class. Not like Strahd. He would be. You are not. Now, that one. I could see it, but she looks like she's not that into you, even though she's across the room, so not her. Not that one. And he like, it was real, and we changed the name of the game for that episode to The Real Housewives of Barovia.
I saw that. I actually saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So that's my week coming up. What's on the docket for the tavern?
We're going to try to be Thursday over at Indoor Adventures at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time for Monster Noir. We're using the City of Mist system, and it's a homebrew campaign. It's the ending arc of multiple years of playing, but it's a new storyline that is the 10 sessions. So you're really not that behind if you're behind. And then on Sunday, I will be playing Wilder Myth, which we've been having just an absolute blast with. So much fun. Feel free to pop in at my channel, Gray Bear Tavern, on Sunday at 10 a.m. ish, and we'll do some more Wilder Myth.
That game honestly is on my list of ones I want to get into. I just don't know where I'm going to have time in my life to do it.
It's so hard to only play on Sundays. It is just so good that I don't want to lose any content.
Mm-hmm.
Or I want people to see every storyboard and every choice I make throughout the different storylines. And so yeah, so I don't play it any other time other than Sunday mornings. So it's very hard to do.
I hear you, and I've been playing a little bit of like Baldur's Gate 3 off stream, but I also just picked up Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous, and I'm like, I kind of want to give that an honest shake too, and I want to finish my Solasta playthrough. Like I could play D&D CRPGs probably well into next year.
Exactly.
So it'll be an adventure. Tomorrow is at 7 p.m. ish. Now that means that my hope is everyone is here at 7 and we're live. Generally speaking, you want to give us a 15-minute window because we're not quite all there yet. And sometimes things happen. But I'm still geeked about it. It's going to be fun to get the cast together.
Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Daylight Time. Yep. And the other neat thing too is with the Kickstarter is once we've Eastern, so that would be 6 p.m. Central. But once we pay off the artists, one of the goals of the Kickstarter is to pay an honorarium back to the players. Oh. That was one of my missions with this. Is I wanted to say, look, I respect the work you all put in. I want to honor that in some way, but I don't know what my budgets are. So let's try Kickstarter. So the generosity is not just helping me; it's helping all the players who really make the games work. Sunday night would not have been the night it was if Azteki had said, "Well, what about that polymorph spell?" and the four of us sat down and went, "Well, what can we polymorph into that flies?"
Right.
And so like that kind of Azteki bringing the humor, Dagan bringing his knowledge, or Adam Note bringing his knowledge of the rules, Jeremy's pragmatism. I mean, it's a great group. I mean, Nebula is just fun to. She role played off Escher for almost an hour. It was a hoot. And then she was like trying to get information out of them too. So it was just a great group. And I'm so blessed. And I say this more and more. And if everyone who's been by who thinks they've had a good time watching me run D&D, it's not me. I am one person at the table. I really owe a lot of my success to the other people who join me every week to play because they're storytellers.
Right.
We just happen to do it together, and I get to decide who the giant orange couch falls on.
Yep, exactly. You lay down the road, they drive on it or off it or over it or under it. They are the motion. You are the road. That's
the way it works. As we wind down, I do want to give a shout out to Inverse Genius, who is the umbrella under which this podcast is published, with the reminder to myself I need to contact them because we're still not on their website yet. But inversegenius.com is home to some amazing content creators in the tabletop RPG and tabletop gaming spaces, as well as other geek and sundry topics. Not literally geek and sundry, that's a different thing, but you know what I meant. And a huge shout out to Sweet Steam, who provides makes amazing steampunk themed chocolates. If you use the code Steam Noir at their website, sweetsteam.com, you get 5% off your purchase, and purchases of $50 or more get free shipping, and they will pack it with ice to ensure that no matter the weather, you get your chocolates intact. Mostly. I mean, there might be some shifting based on your postal carriers, but... So definite shout out to them. They're amazing people. And when we do our giveaways, I always sneak their stickers in there because they are a lot of fun. Thank you for the download. If you're downloading this on your podcast platform of choice, if you are, feel free to please leave us a review there. It's always helps for people to find us so they can hang out with us as well, or listen in on our hangouts and then write angry emails about how much we got wrong. We'll take them. We'll take the angry emails at this point. And those emails should be going to oldtimertavern@gmail.com. Also, feel free to email in your ideas for show contents, questions for the mailbag segment, which we run periodically, or just tell us you like the podcast. Mm-hmm. Our parting thought from my amazing co-host Graybeard is going to be...
I didn't think of one this week. Definitely get out there, try what you can. Don't be afraid to try a one shot that maybe you do have to shell out $5 or $10 for. But like Lantern Noir said, go ahead and check it out. You never know who you're going to meet. And it's always stepping stones and experience. Rack up those XPs until you're ready to DM for yourself.
A freaking men. Till next time, folks, stay safe. For I need to leave longer pauses here because I almost always jump too fast, and it's a pain in the butt to clip when I edit the podcast, which I usually edit on Thursdays, and they go live on Fridays. So they're there for your weekend listening. And I will do that this week because I'm going to a storytelling convention, and I want to make sure it's done before I leave Friday, so I might even get there early.
Nice.
If you check the chat, I did throw the link a few seconds ago to B-Cake. That is the artist who's going to be providing the commissioned work for the Convergence. She may or may not be joining us tomorrow night. She is an amazing content creator in her own right. She is currently streaming an art stream right now. I believe she's doing a speed paint, so she does your entire character in 2 hours.
Oh wow!
And it's a flat, and I'm amazed she has time to do anything else. It's $50, and she does it within a 2-week time period. She does it live on stream, and you can tell her stuff while she's doing it. Now, if you do a lot of corrections, I don't want her arm that way, I don't want her hand that way, it draws the time out, and you might not get as many details, because when the 2 hours up, she's done. She's pencils down at 2 hours.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But if you look at her speed paint work, and you look at her like long form stuff, her speed paint stuff looks good.
Yeah.
Honestly, truly. So I shouted her out. We aren't going to raid there because we have a better raid target today. Nightlight Night, who is playing in our game, she'll be joining us tomorrow night on stream to help brainstorm characters, is celebrating her birthday today. And there's only really one place we can raid then. And bless her heart, every time we've raided her after a podcast recording, she has remembered that we are doing a podcast on Tuesdays. So she doesn't rely on that little pop-up to say D&D. She's like, oh, that's right, and this is your podcast day. So I really adore that about them. They are so good, and they have such an amazing, welcoming community. We're going to throw you guys over at her to wish her a happy birthday. It has almost been 2 hours since her last hype train went off. There was a hype train that I may or may not have contributed with some gift subs to early in her birthday stream. So don't be afraid to help her out with that and help her celebrate. She's filling balloons for subs. So I'm just saying, if she has not passed out yet, that's our goal. That is absolutely our goal. Yep. Well, that's how I end up with a 14-hour stream. I sat down for a 6-hour one and said that every sub was a minute, and every sub was 5 minutes. And every follow was like 1, and every so many cheers was 1. And next thing I know, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and people are still doing things.
Right.
Yeah, that was a long day. He said, complaining so loudly because it was really fun. I get to say I've done a 14-hour stream, and it was a great party. So much Solasta goodness.
Awesome.
All right, folks, we're gonna see everybody next week.